Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli back with another review video to round off Oscar-winning movie week. That's right, guys. You read the title and you know exactly what the last Oscar-winning film it is that I'm going to be reviewing. Yep, and as was clearly teased in the last review video, I'm sure most of you figured out what I was talking about. Yeah, how could you not? This one film that marks being the first ever streaming film to win Best Picture. And it rightfully so deserved and earned that Oscar for Best Picture. Yeah. The fact that this became a thing where some streaming films would sometimes get Oscar nominated. Whether if it's say for best visual effects, makeup, casting, any of that, and most prominently, sometimes Best Picture. And this one in particularly, with it winning Best Picture, this film also receiving an Oscar, one of its cast members, rightfully so, winning the Oscar for Best actor and such. He rightfully so deserved it. Yeah, and this movie itself entirely, the power and impact it leaves off from beginning to end. And really just life going on in this movie for one specific girl whom is 17. She does so much in this movie, from being with family, doing fishing stuff on the boat, to trying to get up there to do what she loves best, singing. Yeah. And with all that happens, and what would come up to the end of the film, just yeah, I tell ya. So yes, guys, to round off Oscar-winning movie week, I am now reviewing, from 2021, Apple TV's CODA. Yes, CODA. Wow. Just wow. What an excellent film this is. And like I said, this film, rightfully so, being a movie on streaming service and all that, rightfully so winning Best Picture. It well deserved the Oscar for Best Picture. Yeah. Even when, it would win the Oscar, how everybody reacted to the Oscar wins, and even doing this, for deaf people, in celebration, clapping and all that, they do this, just extraordinary. Yeah. I knew, of course, the first things I have to say about CODA, I knew, of course, that I was going to enjoy this movie. And shout out to my dad, because he had already seen this movie before, and yeah, this definitely hit him. He really felt the emotion, especially one specific moment towards very later on in this movie where he really choked up and he just bawled out crying and all that. Yeah, because with what he was describing to me, and with what I knew about the film, again, as I said, I knew that I was going to enjoy this. And to finally watch this in all of its glory from beginning to end, it of course did not disappoint me. How can it? And the same would go for you. Everything that CODA has to offer, what it leaves off, with a really fantastic story, great characters, great performances from everybody. The family, that is, the main family, which being deaf, except for one family member whom is not deaf, yep, and all the other characters that she would have chemistry with, someone she has a crush on in school, and the path that takes both of them, and when it comes to them doing music, they both have one thing in common, and them being pretty good damn singers and all that. Pardon my French, but it's true. There are some good, funny moments at times, because, it doesn't fail, and when some of these characters, especially the deaf family, they have a few humorous moments, but especially the emotion, the drama that's in this film, well executed, 100%, all of the above. Yeah, and usually I'm not really an emotional person when it comes to movies, but okay, obviously I've explained this before, that I can feel the power and emotion that comes from movies like this one in particularly. I do. You know, even if I'm one of those, and the same would go for you, that are not, you know, crybabies watching movies, whatever, still, you would understand and sense and feel the power, whatever's going on in a movie like this. So there you go. Yeah, just overall, CODA, it's a masterpiece of a film, and for it being a streaming film, and again, like I said, to win Best Picture, it deserved it. And that's a fact, and I'm sure you would concur. All right, so with the first things I've had to say about CODA done / out of the way, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Ruby is the only hearing member of a deaf family from Gloucester, I think I butchered it a little bit, pardon me, you know me sometimes, Massachusetts, yeah, I pronounced that correctly, yeah. At 17, she works mornings before school to help her parents and brother keep their fishing business afloat, yeah. But in joining her high school's choir club, Ruby finds herself drawn to both her duet partner and her talent position for singing. All right. So, now with reading the description / the story done, out of the way, as I sometimes do, talk a little bit about background, because for those of you that I'm sure are aware, this film being based off of the 2014 French film La Famille Belle, if I got that right. You know, pardon how I, speak my French. It's basically kind of the same thing. When it came to, this film and adaptation and such, being based off of the French film, the producers, they sought to bring the story to an American audience. Yeah, understandable. That's happened before. And if you know some films that were first from, say, France or whatever, and they would be adapted to be a movie for U.S. audiences, yeah. And the director of the French film, both writer and director, Sian Heder, I think I said that right, insisted on authentic casting, and she instantly found residents from producers who wanted big name actors for the deaf roles. I don't know how that would have turned out. Maybe not bad, but yeah, the cast members, like Marley Malton, insisted that deaf actors must play the parts, and rightfully so, yeah, because it just wouldn't seem right to have someone whom is not deaf, really give that real feel and vibe, you know what I'm saying? Just it just wouldn't seem right. And Heder would spend a significant time researching deaf culture, and by learning the American Sign Language, ASL, and working with the deaf advisors, and yeah, that's great to see. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's great to see, how everything went and turned out to be so great with bringing this to life for American audiences. And for any of you who have seen French movies, you've seen that one in particularly, the film that would inspire an American version of that film, which being CODA. So, yeah. Anyways, all right. So, with reading with talking about some background out of the way and done, well, let us now dive in, and for me to break down the film itself, shall we? Okay, so, in Massachusetts, we have our main protagonist, the main lead of this film, the one family member, again, whom is the only one that's not deaf. A 17-year-old girl by the name of Ruby Rossi. Yeah, I think I said that right. Yeah, the Rossi family. That's their family name. And Ruby being played by a really good talent in this film. Oh my gosh, she was just fantastic from beginning to end. The lovely, talented Amelia Jones. And hard to believe that, in reality, she's British. And the fact that she pulled off such a really good American accent for this film, oh, she nailed it, with no doubt, yeah. What Amelia brings to the character of Ruby in CODA, just from beginning to end, is just so fantastic. She did not disappoint for one single second in this film. And I'm sure you would concur with me, Yeah, so, again, Ruby, the only one in the family that, is not deaf, but those that are deaf are both her parents, Frank and Jackie, and the older brother, Leo, that's his name. They are all culturally deaf, and she would assist with the family fishing business, and that being the start of this movie, where we see them out on their boat handling fish while Amelia is singing and all that. And that's so far a good way to start off this film. And once she's done with fishing stuff and all that, then she would go to school and all that. And yeah, because, she plans to join it full-time after finishing high school, the fishing business and all that, but with what else she's gonna do? Ruby would audition for the school choir, which that's not what she was gonna do originally. And the school choir being run by the teacher, one of the teachers and who does music, Bernardo Villabayas, or I butchered his last name, son, but they call him by Mr. V, so just go by Mr. V. However, when she would be called upon to sing, because one of the reasons that she, out of nowhere, decided to join for the choir is because, well, there's one boy in particularly she has the hots for, she has a crush on. Nervous to approach him or anything like that, so in order to get close to him, she joins the choir, which, he's joining the choir as well. And when it would come to her, with her fellow classmates, all joining for the school choir, and each of them practicing and singing, well, they would practice singing Happy Birthday, because Mr. V's birthday was last week, and and Mr. V, he was a pretty good character. He may be tough and such, and, he could be a little out of hand and sensitive, and, he means business when it comes to this class, with the choir and such, taking this very seriously, and it shows. And Bernardo, Mr. V, that is, being played by Engino Debris. I hope I got his full name right, but you know who I'm talking about. And he was fantastic as Mr. V. Every moment we get of him, he just doesn't disappoint. Everybody doesn't disappoint in this movie, and I'll continue saying it as I break down this film. And to acknowledge Ruby's other family members, her parents and her older sibling brother, because, well, there's, of course, her father, Frank, being played by Troy Kotsur, if I got his last name right, and again, him winning the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, he well deserved it. Couldn't agree more, I'm sure you guys. And, the mom, Jackie, being played by Marley Malton, as I did mention already. And, I knew Marley Malton before. Most prominently, I knew her best from Blue's Clues. If you know, you know. That was one of my earliest introductions to Marley Malton. But, everything else that she's done as a deaf actress, well, she's fantastic. There's no denying that. And definitely, this movie would definitely have her be best known, and just being a big film in her acting career, there's no doubt about it. The many great films that she was in, and up to this one, oh yeah, definitely for sure. And Ruby's brother Leo, being played by Daniel Durant. Daniel Durant. And with how much we get of the brother, he too was good in this film as well. But back on point, because Mr. V would have each of the students in the choir class to sing Happy Birthday, hitting that right note and with the vocals. And when it comes up to say Ruby, well, she would panic and just run away, run out of class. And she would come up to this one location that she likes to be at where, there are these small cliffs, rock edges where the river is, and she would be by herself, and that's where she would start singing Happy Birthday, and she's got it down. Yeah, you go, gal. And then later, she would return to Mr. V's class and would explain that, she was bullied for talking funny as a child, and Mr. V would accept Ruby into the choir after hearing her beautiful voice and would encourage her to be more confident. Yeah, do better next time and really be yourself and be confident, all that basic stuff. Yeah. And yeah, because, there's no doubt that once everybody starts to hear her beautiful singing voice, there's not going to be a problem there. Just, yeah. And of course, us, the audience, once we first hear her singing voice, we're like, wow, like, she's great. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, then Mr. V would pair Ruby and Miles. That's the boy that Ruby has a crush on. Yep. We would be thoroughly introduced to Miles, and once he pairs the two of them, as a duet. Yeah, for a duet at the upcoming choir recital. Yep. Their first performance, well, it goes poorly. Yeah, as they each prepare separately. They didn't come together, and they didn't rehearse together. I mean, they should have. Yeah, because a duet requires two people singing together, and that would mean that they have to actually physically be together to rehearse and practice. Facts. Yeah. And Mr. V, yeah, he would insist that they get together on their own to practice. Yeah, which they should have done before. Then Ruby would invite Miles to her house to practice. Because this can only go so great, right? Because, not to mention that at one point it would be brought up where, yeah, because Ruby's parents have to go to the doctor because of some diagnosis that, Jack has, and overall, like, long story short, like, he and Jackie, they can't have sex. Yeah, they can't have sex. I'm sorry, not Jack, Frank. Jackie, because, Jackie and Frank, they both can't have sex for, like, 2 weeks and such. Yeah. And with Ruby having to translate for her parents to the doctor, just, like, yeah, all that complicated stuff. And, yeah, because with how Frank and Jackie react to this, well, they're not pleased, and they're disappointed by this. Yeah. But with Ruby inviting Miles to her house to practice, well, I mean, even Ruby told Miles, like, the place not being very tidy and such, and Miles is perfectly okay with that, and, he would even share to Ruby what his life is with his family, because his parents, well, they are not the best compared to, like, say, Ruby's parents. Like, they're, like, okay, so, like, Ruby's parents are not all that bad compared to Miles' parents, according to Miles. Like, they both hate each other, and even, like, with what Miles specifically says to Ruby, Miles' dad just giving him a hard time, and when it comes to music and such, just, it's unfortunate. But overall, they would practice and rehearse, and at one point, yeah, because they're facing one another, but that's when they decide that, yeah, they should turn their backs. And right at that moment, that's when they're really starting to get the hang of it. They're making good progress practicing and all that. However, that would be interrupted by Ruby's parents, Frank and Jackie. They loudly have sex. They ignored the doctor, and yeah, it's happening in the next room. And Ruby, oh my gosh, like, she has to flip the lights to get their attention to shut up and knock it off. Just, oh my gosh. Well, because, yeah, awkward introduction with Ruby's parents meeting Miles, and basically put this, like, into quite an amusing scene, but very embarrassing for poor Ruby, because, Frank asking Ruby and all that, because if they're having sex and using condoms, and just, like, the way he describes it, like, you should wear a soldier's helmet, and just, like, demonstrating, like, putting on a soldier helmet, and then with the whole thing of a condom. God. So amusing. Yeah, with what happens and just how awkward and embarrassing this is for Ruby. And Ruby just telling Miles to get going, because, yeah, even though Miles, he took it well, I guess, but yeah, what would come next from Miles? Yeah, until I get there just a moment, and yeah, and then, like, Ruby, because, yeah, with her sign language, like, I hate you, just like, yeah, you embarrassed me a lot today. Well, by the next day, Ruby would later hear from fellow classmates in the cafeteria mocking the incident behind her back, yeah, because somehow they found out through Miles, but he told only one person, and, well, like, how was Miles really supposed to know? I guess, like, when he thought that, yeah, his friend Jay, yeah, that's Miles' friend's name, Jay, he told this to his friend. Well, I'm pretty sure as though that he didn't expect his friend to tell anybody else. But his friend did behind his back, so, yeah. So, overall, Miles should have kept his mouth shut. Just, like, yeah, it was, obviously, I'd like to think it was really nothing intentional from Miles, but it's just one of those moments, right? So, yeah. And, you know, Miles, he would apologize for spreading the story, starting with his friend, as I just said, but she wants, as of now, nothing to do with him. But I think it's obvious that won't last long, you know, because they'll rekindle and all that. And yeah, because, you know, she would eventually forgive him, and they would resume their practice. And for a while, they were practicing just separately, and when they each paid a visit to Mr. V, so, yeah. But yeah, and meanwhile, Frank and Leo, yeah, father and son, they struggle to make ends meet with the fishing business, as new fees and, sanctions, however that word's pronounced, you know what I'm saying, are imposed by the local board, yeah. And at the board meeting, Frank would stand and announce that, he is starting his own company, because, yeah, it would just get really out of hand as this film proceeds, and with how everything's looking with the whole fishing business, and with Ruby's family struggling to, you know, continue with doing fishing business. Most prominently, you know, Frank and his two kids, his son and daughter. Yeah. But again, you know, he at one point in the film would announce that he is starting his own company, and with the assistance of his daughter Ruby to translate and such, you know, you guys can screw it and all that. The sign language for screw it and all that. And the new restrictions, and sell his, to sell the fish on his own, in his way, not in the crappy way that those guys are doing. Yeah. And even inviting other local fishermen to join in, because, yeah, I mean, they are not satisfied with what's going on, and yeah, just how much more can they take this shit? Just like them, Ruby's family. And the family, they would struggle to get the company off the ground, because, yeah, sometimes it just doesn't happen like that. It would take a little time, one of those things. And relying on Ruby to talk to people and spread the word, and that's what would happen. Like, notes would be passed, prints and all that. Yeah. So hopefully that works. Yeah. Okay, but then coming back to what Ruby's doing with music and such, singing, Mr. V would then encourage Ruby to audition for the Berklee College of Music and offers her private lessons to prepare. Yep. And Ruby would join him for the lessons, but becomes increasingly busy by helping her family with the business. So back and forth from doing the fishing stuff to that, just, well, I mean, she does her very damnedest, that's for sure. And even, like, say, when Mr. V would help out Ruby with her struggles, like, you know, the way she talked when she was little, talking funny and such, like, basically, the way she talked was like a deaf person, and Ruby doesn't know how to specifically explain this and show this to Mr. V. But with the more encouragement that Mr. V would do for Ruby, like, really, like, and some interesting advice that he gives to not just Ruby, but the other fellow students, like, pant like a dog, like, really, like, build it up and such, and really get the vocals out. And having her hands be on his head, like, pushing, like, just, like, all that, really hit the vocals, like, that's amazing. And like I said, Mr. V really being a great character in this, even when besides at times, like, he can be very intenseful and, when, he feels that Ruby's not taking this very seriously. Being on time and taking this very seriously with singing in the lessons. Yeah, and as I said, because with Ruby having to go back and forth with the fishing business and all that, just like, yeah, and it would grow Mr. V irritated with Ruby constantly being late and just making excuses. I mean, sometimes, even if we don't mean to make excuses, sometimes people make excuses for various reasons, for real reasons and all that. It could be difficult and complicated to explain. Just one of those things. You get what I'm saying? And at one point, and even when, like, say, she has to be there, like, because there were a few times that, yeah, she ran late, and when she was determined not for that to happen again, made that very clear and promised to Mr. V. Well, wouldn't you know it, and when things are looking good for Ruby's family, they're really getting the hang of it with the fishing business. At one point, a news crew comes in to interview them, and Ruby has to be there to translate for her parents. But for that to happen right where she has to meet with Mr. V at his place. Not to mention that Mr. V's a family man. So yeah, that's another big thing for Mr. V, like not only having to teach for singing lessons, but also being there for his daughter. So yeah, that's understandable too, even with what he specifically says and points that out to Ruby. Yeah, it's not just her struggling, even he's struggling. And yeah, Ruby, because it gets a little out of hand between, say, her and her mother, because, saying that she can't be there because of, and throughout this film at times, because Jackie, Ruby's mom, and when we learn more, that she's just afraid to let her baby go. Yeah, and no matter how old, a child is to a parent, always viewing their children as their baby. That's pure facts, right? No matter how old that child becomes, like from a teenager to adult, no matter what. That's true. But yeah, ultimately, Ruby, she does help out with translating for her parents to the interviewer. However, she is getting a little bit distracted by texting Mr. V and all that. Well, even when she, makes her way finally to Mr. V's place, well, he's not there at his house, but then when she would meet him at class, well, yeah, because, canceling their lessons, and, he would, chastise, if I'm saying that right, yeah, her for wasting his time, and accusing her at first of not caring enough about music, but of course she does, but, with the struggles that she has to go through, yeah. Well, yeah, and coming back to more of, say, Ruby and Miles, and by the way, I can't of course forget to mention whom plays Miles, and of course to acknowledge the rest of the cast members. Miles being played by Ferdia Walsh-Pilo. Yeah, I hope I got his full name right, yeah. And also the doctor that they talked with, being played by Jason Pugach, if I got that right. And also a friend of Ruby's, whom apparently has a crush on Ruby's brother, Leo, sorry. Gertie being played by Amy Forsythe, yeah. And yeah, overall, eventually, they actually would connect and all that. They would start to connect and hook up and such, yeah. And that's another thing, because Miles at times, and even early on, because trying to find a date, especially online, online dating, but, even with, like, what advice he gets from his mother, just like, yeah. And also to talk more about Leo, because Leo, throughout most of the film, and when he tries to tell his parents that he's got this, he can do this, but just They don't listen. They just don't see it in their son that he's able to do this. And they view their daughter doing more and all that. Just even like when Leo, he technically does support his sister by, encouraging her to do her thing with music and all that. Just all that, and, let me do it in such a, yeah, it's one of those things. And, it's ridiculous at times. And it's obvious that, okay, not every parent that does something like that, they mean it. You know what I'm saying? Just like, yeah. But with how it's established in this movie, well put. And the other characters to mention, well, because there's also Tony Salgado, played by John Fiore, Arthur, played by Lonnie Farmer, Brady, played by Kevin Chapman, and there's also Audria, played by Molly B. Thomas, and Mrs. Simon, played by Cortland Jones. Yeah, and I'll mention the other cast members later on, so yeah. Oh yeah, even like say, one of the fellow classmates of choir, Mr. V calls him Harry Potter boy, because he looks like Harry Potter. Not to mention that Mr. V gives Ruby a nickname, and that being Bob, because of Bob Dylan, because Mr. V mentioned and brought up to Ruby Jones about the whole thing of Bob Dylan, Bowie, David Bowie and such, Sand and Paper. I think you know what I'm talking about, yeah. If you know about that with say, both Bob Dylan and David Bowie, so, yeah. Two legendary musicians, by the way, of course, and even this guy. Yeah. Anyways, so, yeah, so, like I said, because, like, I was talking about Gertie and Leo, sorry. I don't want to get their names mixed up, I hate that, but point being is that, yeah, it's nice to see, like, the connection that Gertie and Leo would have with how much we get of them in this movie. Also, because early on, Gertie wanted to learn what to say in sign language to Ruby's brother, because, like, sexual kind of stuff or all that, just, God. And before Gertie left, like, what she said in sign language to Leo, well, he was like, excuse me? Like, with doing this, and, like, apparently he thought that she said that she had Hermes or something, if you know what I'm saying. That was funny. Because after she left, he points that out to Ruby. Why did your friend tell me she... What I say, like, there's some really good humorous moments in this movie. And, yeah, it's great to see this movie has that. Yeah. Besides the drama and all that. And by the way, because, yeah... Now to go ahead and bring this up and to speed things up some, because, and I was going to talk more about, say, Ruby and Miles. Well, eventually, yeah, like I said early, things would settle down and everything would be patched up between Ruby and Miles. Miles doing his best to apologize to Ruby, even when at one point he texts her, and it would lead to where they would go to that location that she goes to, where basically you're not supposed to swim at. There are signs that say you can't swim, but they just break the rules anyways, don't we sometimes? As long as, we're being careful, So, and the fact that she can't be there to help out with her brother and father while they're fishing and such. And again, the fact that they've started their own fishing business. So with that going on, like, and there's someone with Frank and Leo, and when they have to tell her that, they're deaf and such. So, yeah. Was she not informed? What was that about? I don't know. It was, But, yeah, the time that Ruby and Miles spend together, out there with swimming and all that, and, again, like, things are slowly but surely... being patched up, and also, because, like, Joanne Biles, yeah, that's whom is with Frank and Leo out on the boat, and Joanna being played by Rebecca Gibble. I think I got her last name right, yeah. She seems okay, but even, like, say, little does she know, and because, you know, Leo and Frank, they're communicating with sign language, like, Leo offering to throw her off the boat. You know, obviously humorous and all that, but yeah. But yeah, again, the time that Ruby and Miles spent while swimming, jumping off, like, a tall rock and such, you know, off the edge and all that, and counting down to, you know, 1, 2, 3, but, like, at one point Miles stopped her right as she was about to get to 2, like, ha, gotcha, and, like, yeah, he jumps in, so, and not to mention that Ruby gave Miles a heads up at one point that, oh, his legs are gonna shake with, you know, where they're gonna jump next, like another, like, the next tall rock they jump from, you know, his legs will shake like cartoon and all that, just, yeah. But, overall, things look better than ever between Miles and Ruby. Even say when, like, yeah, they're having fun on this, you know, tree branch that's out in the water, and Miles going for a kiss. Yeah. This is where they start to kiss. Yep, the relationship really getting there. That's great to see. And yeah, I mean, in my opinion, Miles and Ruby, they make a cute couple in this film. But while that's going on, and while, yeah, Frank and Leo, along with, as I mentioned, they're out doing fishing stuff and all that, well, they would be intercepted, yeah, by the Coast Guard after failing to respond to ship horns and radio calls. And that was supposed to be her job. Like, couldn't she have answered them? I don't know. Beats me. Ugh. And they would be fined. And they would have their fishing license revoked for their negligence. Yeah, I think I said that right. And they would appeal, and they would manage to get their license back, thank goodness for that, on the condition, under one condition, that they have to have a hearing person on board with them at all costs, at all time, etc. And Ruby, you know, would announce to the family that, you know, she is foregoing college because, yeah, this, of course, would be brought up to them that, you know, she was planning to go to college and all that, and she'll join the business full-time. Yeah, because with what's going on right now and with what she's sensing, yeah, she's now willing to give up what she was going to do. And her parents being supportive of this. However, in the case of Leo, he reacts to this very angrily and insisting that he can manage their own problems without Ruby's help, but they deny him, they just, like, they block him and all that. And with what I said earlier about that whole thing, just like, yeah. Yeah, because with things getting a little out of hand, and also, like, yeah, like, a moment between, you know, the parents, Frank and Jackie, because, you know, Jackie explaining to her husband that she doesn't want to let their baby go, and Frank explaining to her that she's not a baby, she never was, etc. And also a heated moment between brother and sister, Ruby and Leo, and yeah, especially because, like, it's amazing, of course it is, that these moments we get in this movie where it's just them sign languaging, and if anybody, I mean, of course I always do, whenever I watch a movie, I always have the subtitles on. Having the subtitles on in any way of this movie and translating what they're saying, and even if any of you know sign language, well, yeah, because you know what they're saying, but point being is that, yeah, the certain things that each of them say, and when it comes to Ruby and Leo, it just gets out of hand. And Leo just giving his little sister a hard time, and wow, because, you know, and while I was watching this movie, I read the subtitles, and I kind of got into character at times reading the subtitles. You ever have one of those moments where you would sometimes get into character than reading those subtitles? If you get what I'm saying, it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter, like, rather if it's, you know, movies like this where, yeah, it's sign language, or, you know, like any film where they're speaking in a different language or alien language like Star Wars, Star Trek, you get what I'm saying, like, yeah. But my point being is that, yeah, that part where, yeah, because even at one point Leo, he just ran off, and where they just dodged him, they just avoided him, because when he wanted to, insisting that he can manage all this, but yeah, again, he was just blocked by his parents. Again, nothing intentional from them, obviously. I guess they just didn't really see it in their son, just being one of those things. You know, not to mention that when they, because here's the thing, like, another thing about the parents, and I am going to get to the part where I was going to say about what happens between brother and sister. It's really just, like, deep. But it would be brought up at times that, you know, because Jackie, the mother, has never really been out there, really, you know, being out there in the world and interacting with people, and even when, like, say, yeah, even though she's deaf, still, and with what Ruby explains to her and all that, Ruby's been out there trying to make friends and all that, and she has at times, but just like, yeah, being very complicated even for Jackie and all that, just like, yeah. And the fact that they can't afford someone, it's also mentioned they can't afford someone to translate for them. That'd be very costly. And everything else that's going on, even like say at one point Frank offering to sell their boat, and when things at one point aren't looking too good, just, yeah. Again, like, with this movie showing life struggles, something like this, I tell you. But yeah, and like I said, because, again, Frank and Jackie, they were talking about, you know, Jackie most prominently not wanting to let their baby go, and with what Frank says in response, and by that point, he's just had enough, and, like, he wants to go to sleep, but, and with Ruby and Leo, because, yeah, Leo, what he said at one point, that, saying to Ruby that things were better before you were born, and, ooh, when I read those subtitles, then I was like, oh, like, that's deep. I literally said that, because, yeah, it's true. Damn. That was dark. That was cruel of Leo. But, okay. Obviously, very later on in the film, okay, clearly things did patch up, right? Everything was patched up between brother and sister. You know, not to mention that at times in this movie, like, when like they say goodbye for now and like Ruby goes off, like, you know, in exchange, like, you know, they do some funny humorous insults to one another, like, you know, shit face or all that kind of stuff. That's so funny. But yeah, but even though, like, yeah, with what Leo said to, you know, his sister, obviously he was just corrupted with so much upsetment, and obviously he didn't really mean it, you know. People have those moments, even with how it's done in movies, like this one. Yeah. Yeah, well, to still speed things up some. And because, like, yeah, I mean, Ruby's still making great progress with, by that point, with still practicing and with the choir and all that, and will still, you know, do the duet with Miles, not to mention that, at one point, Jackie did buy her daughter a red dress, and, you know, even if she doesn't want to wear it still, but she does, and yeah, a nice conversation between Jackie and Ruby, because, you know, the whole thing of, like, say, moving on, growing up, but also, like, Ruby asking her mother if she wished that if she was deaf, and Jackie, long story short, to put it this, like, Jackie explaining to Ruby that when she was first born, I mean, they did some tests on her and to make sure if, like, yeah, she could hear and if she was deaf and all that, and once it was official that she was not deaf, she can hear, well, her heart sank and she felt as though at first that she would not be able to connect with her daughter and be a bad mom and such. And the fact that the same happened to her, Jackie and her mom, they never connect. What? I assume that, Jackie's mom sadly never could understand what the whole thing of sign language and that kind of stuff, I guess. That's sad but true. One of those things. But Ruby assures her mom, Jackie, that, you know, you're a bad mom for different reasons, you know, humorously and all that. But just overall, it's great to see with that conversation that both mother and daughter had, everything was great. It all turned out good, and yeah, their mother and daughter relationship couldn't have been better than ever, you know? Yeah. Well, what would happen next, and even after that? Yeah, with how close, like, yeah, the choir recital is, and on account that I just mentioned that Jackie got that dress for Ruby, well, they would attend Ruby's choir recital, and while all three of them cannot hear her singing, well, they would notice the positive reception from the audience, yeah, around them, especially Frank. And they're just going along with how how the rest of the audience are reacting. Even Gertie being there right beside Leo and them holding hands. That's cute. And yeah, and even like say when they do sing, like okay, with both Miles and Ruby starting off with the entire choir. Well, because once they come up to sing their duet, at one point, the movie goes quiet. The movie goes quiet. We start to hear from Frank's point of view, his hearing and such, which, he can't hear. Everything's so quiet, from the three of them. And just the three of them looking around, most prominently Frank, looking around, seeing everyone's reactions. There are smiles, there's a bit of tears and all that, and encouragement, just like, yeah, and once it's finished, then everybody claps and applause. Yeah, then the audio is loud, like, yeah, the movie turns its audio up. That's amazing. Yeah, and it all went well, and like I said, despite they couldn't hear, they can tell, judging by the faces and reactions from everyone else in the audience, it all went great. Yeah. And everybody got a kick out of Ruby, her singing and such. And later that night, yeah, this part, Frank would ask his daughter to sing a song for him, the song that, was sang at the choir recital, the duet song. Yeah, and even with her explaining to Frank what that song means, like, finding someone, a partner, love and all that. It's a love song. Yeah. While she sings, he would feel her vocal cords, growing emotion and all that. Oh my God, like, tell me that's not so damn emotional and powerful. It is. And like I said earlier, my dad, the one part that he got so emotional was that. And tell me you did not get emotional at that too. I mean, I didn't. Like I said, I'm not someone that cries over movies, but there's no denying that, yeah, I can sense the power of that sequence right there between father and daughter. The father who's deaf, feeling his daughter's vocal cords. Wow, just extraordinary. Not to mention that, technically, Frank does like listening to music. He likes the beat. He likes listening to punk rock and such, even cranking up the speakers in his truck. Yeah, which happened very early on in the film when they picked her up from school, embarrassing her and all that, very awkward. But yeah, then what would happen next? And to still speed things up some, the entire family that would then drive to Boston with Ruby for her Berkeley audition, and they unfortunately are not supposed to enter the audition hall. However, they managed to, even Frank suggests this, sneak up to the balcony to watch anyway, which they rightfully so do. And Ruby at first is nervous, but she would gain confidence when she would see her family. Yeah, but also Mr. V. Unfortunately, he did not show up at first, but he did. And the one specific song that she is supposed to sing, well, unfortunately, the piano player is not too familiar with, like, how the song goes on piano, but, yeah. But Mr. V knows how it goes when he steps in. Yeah, because, well, the song that, she sings, being called Both Sides Now. I'm sure you're familiar with it, of course, yeah. And, yeah, she finally gets the hang of it, gaining the braveness and all that, thanks to Mr. V, who steps in, playing the right keys on the piano to that song, and when her family is up in the balcony, and when she sees them, well, with her singing the song so beautifully, she translates the lyrics with sign language. And they get it. They understand, what she's singing, what the lyrics are. Oh my God, like, that's another great moment. Even those that were, there with their boards, and they were, going to see if she does well. The Juro, yeah, because they would notice as well, what Ruby's looking at up above. And yeah, they don't care. They're satisfied too. Yeah, the jury members. The female jury member being played by Renee Malezowiski. Oh my god, I think I got part of it right, but again, me sometimes. And the male jury member being played by David Newsom. Yeah. And also, after the chorus recital, because yeah, Mr. V, to talk more about Mr. V, he would get to meet Ruby's parents, her family. Even when trying to do sign language, it's nice to F you. He says that directly to Frank. His sign language is a bit rusty, because with, like, how many fingers he needs to do. Even Frank, he understood this. And even, like, in a humorous response, it's nice to screw you, too. Even Mr. V's wife had to cover their daughter's eyes from, like, what they were doing with the hands. Oh, it's so funny. And to name the other cast members, yeah, because, there was also Off-Key Girl. She was Off-Key, being played by Kayla Caulfield, if I got her last name right. Again, yeah. Tall Boy, played by Stephen Kaliskin. Shy Girl, played by Amanda Broadshaw. Broadway Boy, played by Brian Sabag. Them being a part of the chorus. Yep. Shaker Girl, played by Mavi Chapman. It's very fitting, like, the names they have for this. Because, yeah, like, at one point when they're early in the film where they're practicing, Mr. V lended them some, instruments. Shaker Girl was being a little too out of hand with it, so yeah. The others, like, Misha, played by Amelia Focher. Nina, played by Marilyn Bush. Barb, played by Melissa McKean, who, yeah, this has to do with the fishing business, yeah. Angela, played by Erica McDermott. Chet Turner, played by Garrett McCheney. And yeah, the Coast Guards that we saw. Coast Guard boarding officer, played by TJ Ciara Matero, yeah, and Coast Guard officer, played by Gary Galone, yeah, and monitors 1 and 2, number 1 being played by Nikki Kim and Mary Ann Shum, she's number 2 monitor, Tanya, played by Sarah Clark, and yeah, so, and a couple that are uncredited, like pageant guest, played by Brina, band member, played by Alexander M. Ackerblom, a school teacher, played by Charles Cohen, a fisherman, played by Ian Dillon Hunt, and yeah, everybody else that is uncredited, yeah, they all did fantastic, yeah. All right, but back on point, because, yeah. And also, as Ruby is singing that song, well, we would get a montage where things couldn't have been better than ever, with everybody really starting to connect with the deaf family, and also Ruby attempting to get into the Berkeley College and such. Unfortunately, when she made her way to the audition in Boston, yeah, well, she ran into Miles, whom unfortunately didn't pass. Yeah, he didn't pass his audition. He, like, his voice and such cracked or whatever with what he says. Oh, well, it just sometimes happens. And yeah, sometime later, and as the audition, well, the montage, I should say, wraps up, well, Ruby would finally be accepted to Berkeley. Yep. And she would share the news with her family. Well, I mean, they're right there when, they're watching the computer. And yeah, they see that she's accepted. They all cheer and all that. And even when she went to tell Mr. V, at first, she's like, she gives him a little look like, she didn't pass, but, got you, just like, yeah, they're all excited for her before asking Miles to visit her in Boston sometime. And Miles just jokingly saying that she's probably gonna hook up with someone who plays the cello with a fedora and all that. And, okay, obviously, it's just humor and all that. Because, yeah, with how far that both Miles and Ruby have come a long way, their romance, okay, I'd like to think, and I'm sure it would be obvious, that they're going to be together. And once Miles makes his way fully to Boston, no doubt. Yeah, and they can have their happily ever after. No doubt about it. Yeah, and meanwhile, the hearing workers, yeah, and in the family's fishing business, yeah, because Yeah, and that's another thing. They've learned the sign language. Finally! Like, what took them so long? Beats me, but it's just one of those things. Yeah, so that's another part I almost forgot to mention. Yeah, so like I said, things couldn't have been better for the family. Yep. And, well, you know, now that they know the sign language, well, allowing them to interpret for the family, and also, yeah, Ruby's friend, Gertie, yep, she would tag along with Ruby, driving her to Boston for college. And as her family sees them off, yep, Ruby would sign I love you to them, which being this. But yeah, because the last moments we get between Ruby and her family, and, you know, very emotional and such. And like I said, like, things obviously did get patched up between Ruby and her brother Leo, because after what Leo said to Ruby that was very hurtful, obviously off screen it was patched up, clearly, yeah. But still, them exchanging insults to one another, goodbye monkey, shitface, and all that, it's funny. And yeah, some belongings that are placed in the car, which one of them being an octopus plush of Ruby's. But hey, you know, because sometimes we're always going to have a plush that we've had since, what, childhood or something? We've been there, yeah. And right as, like, Ruby and Gertie take off, well, Ruby has Gertie stop the car, and yeah, she embraces a family group hug with her brother and her parents. That's great to see, yeah. And, yeah, Ruby's off to Boston. And again, doing this, I love you, just, yeah. And that's how the movie ends. Wow, just, again, like, the way that this movie, like, how everything that goes on in this movie is so amazing. Just like, yeah, it's amazing. Everything that CODA has to offer from beginning to end is extraordinary. You know, a great storyline, you know, where it all began. It started with a French film and then being turned in for U.S. audience, which being CODA, fantastic. Actual deaf actors and all that being involved in this film, really giving the authentic feel of deaf characters in this film. Yeah, you know, father, mother, and son, the only three that are deaf, that is with the exception of the daughter, which being Ruby. The life struggles that happen throughout this film, just wow, so well done, detailed. Great chemistry, great acting from a lot of great talents from this film, yeah. The songs that are in this film that are sung by the characters have to acknowledge the rest of the songs, like, yeah, because, well, because there's, like, say, like a few, like one or two songs that Ruby listens to from the Shags, if you know about the Shags, like most prominently her favorite, My Pal Foot, yeah. Also, Baby It's True, I Am a Hustler, Something's Got a Hold on Me, Let's Get It On, You're All I Need to Get By, and also, yeah, It's Your Thing, which, yeah, that was performed by Amelia Jones and Fredia, who plays Miles. You're All I Need to Get By, yeah, and that too, which again be titled You're All I Need to Get By, that. The Man Who Built America, You Put the Spice in My Life. All the songs that are in this movie are just fantastic and well sung by Amelia Jones, everybody else, and yeah, you know, the fact, because, you know, Amelia Jones, again, whom is British, but doing a spot-on American accent and singing, excellent. Just excellent. Yeah. And yeah, because, again, great talents that are in this movie. From Amelia Jones, of course. The Academy Award-winning actor, Troy Custer. Yep. Daniel Durant. Also, yeah, Fredia Walsh, Pilo, and Marley Malton, Mr. V himself, and Giano, yeah, him. Everybody else that was involved in this film, they were all fantastic. Also, like, yeah, what's-her-face who plays Gertie, she too was really good too with how much we get of her and the chemistry that both Gertie and Leo would have and when they would connect. Yeah, Amy Forsythe, her two being fantastic. All of the cast members that were involved in CODA, they did not disappoint. The music and score in this film, excellent too. And again, the use of songs and the songs that the characters sing, the hilarious, funny moments, and the hard-hitting moments, the drama, everything. Need I go on? Overall, to round things off with my final thoughts, CODA it's a masterpiece of a film, and for it being a streaming film. And again, rightfully so, winning Best Picture. And I'm giving CODA, is it obvious? Yeah, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for CODA. And what about you guys? What did you think of CODA itself? When did you first knew about this film? And if any of you first knew about the French film, then when knowing about this film, and for those of you that, subscribe to Apple TV, and of course watching that movie there, that being an Apple TV original film, I should say, is it one of your top favorite streaming films, and to have won Best Picture, and were you surprised too, and you feel the same way too, that this movie rightfully so won Best Picture, and Troy winning that Oscar for Best Supporting Role, he rightfully so deserved it. Did you get some good laughs? Did you get teary-eyed? I have no doubt about that. Favorite moments, favorite lines, and with the use of songs that are played and that Emilia Jones and everybody else sings, the chemistry and relationship with all these characters, everything that goes on from beginning to end. Just, again, what do you think of CODA itself, with what all I've had to say, my review, and what did you think of my review of CODA? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, guys, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of CODA. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And, well, with that, Oscar-winning movie week has come to a close. Yep, for this year's Oscar-winning movie week and all that I've done, the films that I've reviewed, it was all really fun. Yeah, I picked some pretty good ones, in my opinion, and I'm sure you would think so too. And I can't wait to do it again next year. Yep. So, all that's really left to say now is, again, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and until the next Oscar-winning movie week, peace out.